Right then, as we continue our series of looking at the various strengths and weaknesses of each individual United player and what we've learned about them this season, it falls upon Scott McTominay's turn. So let's get into it then. 5 things we learned about Scott McTominay. Right, in at number 1 then, the biggest thing that stands out to me with McTominay, and some of you are going to see this as a negative, and in some ways it is, because you can't start here talking about the quality of footballer he is, and it's passion. Passion merchant. Well, yeah, whether or not you think he's good enough for the first team, whether or not you rate his footballing abilities, Scott McTominay plays like he's actually arsed. He's definitely bothered. Him and Fred often start ahead of Van der Beek, Matic. A lot of that's down to work rate. A lot of that is down to the distance that they will cover across the football pitch. And when the standard isn't particularly high in the first team, which it isn't, it tends to be hard workers that are going to get picked. And I don't necessarily have a massive drama with that. You always want to go down swinging, don't you, if you're going to go down? And this is how you go down swinging. The manager also then gets the opportunity to set an example to the rest of the squad. Do you want to be in a team, work harder? And I tell you what, seeing an academy lad in the first team grafting, playing like one of us is on the pitch, well, I'll unapologetically support that. As much as I think he probably should be a squad player. Which brings me to number 2. Limited in ability. McTominay has got obvious strengths to his game. Some people are going to be downplaying that. Some people are just going to deny that. But there are obvious strengths to his game. He can break the play up well. He has got a drive about him. He can track back. He keeps possession in a very basic, sort of rudimentary kind of manner. But he also seems to have his best games in the bigger games. Despite that, a lot of his weaknesses this season have been seen once you ask him to be a front foot ball-playing player. His passing is far too often sideways and far too limited in its range and quality. Asking him to thread a ball through, break a line, put it at the right weight, at the right sort of distance, just behind the defender, ready for a striker to get on the end of. He's not going to do that. Asking him to switch play quickly. Now, I've seen him switch play, but often it's laboured, it's obvious. It's one of those big loopy ones. See, Wayne Rooney got into his head he was Paul Scholes at the very tail end of his career, and he would do these big loopy switches of play. Paul Scholes would do them at 7 foot high. And they would just buzz cut people and drop at the right person's foot. When people like me, who haven't got any ability, hit a switch, I have to send it high because I haven't got that to be able to hit it like a Paul Scholes. McTominay is similar. He will spread the play, but he's not spreading the play. He's switching it without switching it. Do you understand what I'm saying? There's levels to the ball-playing ability. Scott McTominay's ball-playing ability is pretty basic. Which is why, number 3, he is a perfect squad player. I've said very often, when Fred and McTominay become squad players for Manchester United, it's because someone has walked in who's an obvious 6 or an 8 that starts ahead of them. And that's a good thing. When you've got Scott McTominay to give proper number 8 a night off, you'll appreciate him. And you'll see what he does, and you won't get too giddy about, he didn't have a 10 out of 10 performance, but he was an 8 out of 10 performance. And you'll like that. Hard-working academy player, bit of experience about him, got a good attitude, seems to fit in with everything the manager wants him to do, can fill in when people are injured or need to be rotated. You can add him in to bolster a more defensive sort of scenario. He isn't good enough to be a starter week in, week out, but he definitely needs to be part of the squad. You can't just have 22 world-class players. There has to be levels. There has to be players at different stages of their career, and that is how you utilise the best squad. He's versatile. He can fill in at centre-half. He can fill in as a 6. He can fill in as an 8. He even played up front in the 23s. having someone with the mentality to be able to go, I'll just go wherever you need me, is not a bad thing. At number 4 then, McFred. For a long time, it seems that you couldn't mention McTominay without mentioning Fred. Fred and McTominay were picked together. They shared a lot of similarities in the way they played, even though they shouldn't. They both fit, they break up well, they both play with passion, but both were limited in terms of what they offer in possession. This is why United often slow through the middle third, couldn't really seem to create enough incisive chances. Here's your culprits. But also, in a big game, they can justify their selection. It seems there's probably only room for one of them to be getting regular games. I think next season United will bring in another midfielder, and I think one of them will end up getting the nod, or you might end up seeing them sort of sharing one position. If a proper number 6 comes in, a real, I'm the best number 6 at this football club, everyone else sit down, Bruno's going to be one of the midfielders, which means that Fred and McTominay are likely going to be fighting it out for one spot. And I think that's an improvement. And it might be that, hey, what, McTominay's in a better run of form, he plays. Actually, you know what, we're going with a bit more of a dynamic pressing kind of game. Maybe it'll be Fred that plays. Fred in the opposition half's been very impressive. Seems to maybe have a higher ceiling when it comes to final third play, except shooting, obviously. I think it's going to be very interesting to see if one of them can separate themselves from the other. So often been joined when you're having the conversations about them. I think only one of them is going to get the opportunity to really cement a first-team place. It'd be interesting to see what route the new manager goes. And in at number 5, he's honest. Scott's been praised by the fans for coming out after the 4-1 loss at the Etihad and being genuine in his interview. He mentioned exactly where he thought United went wrong, didn't and doesn't try to avoid questions and doesn't give beige answers. That's popular amongst fans when things are going wrong, because it means a player's able to take ownership of what's going wrong at the club, what's going wrong in their own performance. I mean, none of us like it when everyone else starts pointing fingers. If your own performance is bad, say, listen, I was bad, and collectively we weren't great. That sort of honesty goes a long way. And you can get behind a player that does that. Starts to really great when you have players coming out going, oh, well, what could I do? Everyone else was shit. So I appreciate that on Scott's side. But like I said, to summarise, once he becomes a squad player at United, we've moved on and we're in a better spot as a club. I think he gets a lot of unfair criticism. I don't think anyone expects him to be starting week in, week out in an ideal scenario. But you know what you're getting with him. Limited on the ball, but he will work for you off it. So, there we go. That's my thoughts. Get in the comments. Let's see yours. See you in the next one. Laters. Hey, thank you for watching the video. If you are new around these parts, then don't forget to subscribe. My channel is proudly supported by my community on Patreon. If you'd like to get a little bit of extra content, a Discord group, meetups, 5-a-side games, weekly podcasts, behind the scenes, and even an occasional bit of transfer news as and when I get it, then for the price of a pint, you can show your appreciation for the content that we make and get some goodies for doing so as well. Check the link in the description or click the button right here. You'll also find all of my socials here too if you want to follow me on any of those platforms. Nice one.